Good afternoon. This is the online project for Team Kanguru. Present today we have Adam Hogan, Amanda Lucas, Paul Mahan, Stephen Corr and Derek Nevin. We are going to discuss this project in the basis or on the context of a clean-up party around the gay referendum vote counting in the Mansion House on the day after the referendum. The roles for the purpose of the meeting, I will be facilitating. Amanda is going to keep time on the meeting, and Stephen Corr is going to record the minutes. We're going to define it under the role of setup, problem identification, stakeholder analysis, strategic goal setting, and strategic planning. We are the team, as I said, tasked to clean up the area, and we're going to plan around that. Could we discuss maybe in terms of the setup first and foremost what roles we feel will need to be defined?
How big an area do we have to clean up? Do you know?
Well, it's the Mansion House area in general, the outside courtyard where the large screen will do a live broadcast of the vote as it happens. So all of this.
And Dawson Street, just in front of the Mansion House.
No, just within the grounds. Outside
Okay.
the grounds is not our remit.
Okay, grand. Okay, so it's not a huge area.
It's not a huge area. And any other questions? Any other?
Do we know how many people are attending?
We're expecting several thousand.
Okay.
So obviously we've got to provide facilities for people. We're expecting a kind of a party atmosphere because we do expect the vote to be carried, and so therefore we're expecting a large assembly. If the weather is good, we could have people actually picnicking in the area. A party atmosphere expected, and so therefore we've got to expect that there will be a little bit of rubbish created. So we've got to try and prevent rubbish being strewn around in the first place, and obviously the collection of rubbish in the event that a cleanup operation.
2.5 minutes, Derek. So.
Grand, okay.
Well, what I would suggest is, have we spoken to Dublin City Council about putting in extra waste containers, additional bins that can be just collected quickly after the event?
Yeah, well, I suppose what we really need to do, I suppose, first and foremost, is identify the problem and any possible problems. Make sure that we have all of those, that we've maybe created a list in relation to that, and then we can look at what we need to do to facilitate those problems.
Okay. So obviously, rubbish is going to be the big one. Obviously, some of the posters may come loose as well that will end up on the ground. So
there'll be flags, probably leaflets.
Well, there'll be drink bottles as well. There'll be all the recycling. Will have to be glass cans, all that stuff will have to be issues around that. Just making sure people don't get cut, and with glass and stuff like that, they'll need gloves and protective stuff maybe for that.
Yeah.
PPC gear, yeah.
And presumably we will need clothing as well, like high-vis vests and all that kind of stuff to mark, staff. And we need an idea of how many kind of vests we need to get. How big the team is, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, well, I would think that obviously, as you say, if we're going to have various types of rubbish, we're going to have various types of collection facilities and collection areas to ask, I suppose, the public if we provide correct facilities to start with. Yeah. Well, then people will probably comply. I think if you're talking about the type of people that are going to be there, they're going to be people who have a good kind of sense of social responsibility.
Yeah.
So I would expect that if we provide them with facilities there, thank you, Amanda. If we provide them with the facilities beforehand, it might make the task of cleaning up a lot easier in the aftermath.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the problem basically to identification is rubbish, bottles, flags, general waste. and obviously we need to have safety clothing around that. In relation to the, thank you, Amanda. In relation to the stakeholders, the stakeholders that I see personally are obviously the gay community, the political parties who've initiated the referendum and are looking for a yes vote. Tourist Ireland, obviously, because they want to make sure that the area itself, which is a tourist area, is kept in the tip-top condition. Dublin City Council and the general public in general. Anybody else got any suggestions?
I'd say business owners around that area too.
Sorry, Amanda?
Business owners, sorry, in the area.
Business owners, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose people living in the area as well, you know, around that area.
I know we're not responsible for outside of the Mansion House, but we will need to liaise with Dublin City Council in terms of cleaning up if we're going to be responsible for that many people pouring back out onto the street at a certain time.
6 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I think our responsibility obviously is within the area, but we've got to make sure that any rubbish that's generated there doesn't find its way out onto the streets.
Okay.
And that, you know, if people can't find somewhere to throw their rubbish, you know, within the area, they may throw it outside if we don't facilitate it properly.
Well, I suggest then like a bin or a barrier where people come out, if you could control where they come back out onto the street and have just people there with bins, with a couple of recycling bins, you know, the wet rubbish, plastic bottles and that kind of stuff, just so people don't bring the rubbish out onto the street. It can be collected before they get out there. So when everybody's gone, we could just simply have to pick up the stuff that's left on the courtyard. Yeah.
Well, maybe we could provide, we could have 2 people volunteer to you know, maybe at the exits. I think there's one main exit out of there, if I'm not mistaken. We could have maybe somebody there with collecting rubbish from people, or, you know, asking them, can we collect? Do they have any rubbish? Maybe encouraging them to dispose of it before they leave.
Yeah.
I think definitely a presence there will help. Someone who seems to be kind of controlling the rubbish area. I think people will be less inclined to throw stuff on the ground if they feel there is people there.
Someone
kind
watching.
of. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Has anybody got any connections with any of these, you know, political parties or Tourist Ireland? Would anybody like to take on the responsibility of contacting these?
Yeah, well, I'll get in touch with Tourist Ireland then and see what they suggest. I mean, they've obviously been involved in other events before and see what their experience has been in the past.
Yeah.
I'll take on that role, yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering, could we contact any of these organisations and try to see if we can get some volunteers to assist on the day?
Yeah, I'll have a look at going to the actual council. Surely have channels that they use for that, for their events, and just see what we can pick up from there and try to get volunteers.
Okay.
I'll contact maybe the council and see if the council they can provide us with carts or recycling facilities, or they probably have some advice and experience of dealing with that. So I'll contact Dublin City Council.
Great. Okay. Do we have any idea of the number of people that we need to run the project, to ensure that it's the cleanup is done in a timely fashion? Anybody ideas of numbers?
Would you reckon at least one person per 100 people showing up? So if you're expecting thousands, possibly
10 people per 1,000.
maybe.
Yeah, you'd easily need 10 people per 1,000. Yeah, I would have said maybe 20 people per 1,000. So
we're expecting a crowd of between 5 and 10,000.
Yeah, so what, 45, 50 people should be enough, I'd say.
Okay.
That's a big team, though.
It is, yeah. Anybody want to take on the role of marshalling that?
Yeah, I'll help with that.
Yeah. Sorry, Paul, you. There.
I'll do
Take
that.
that on, Paul, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, grand. Okay. So, in terms of the strategy for the goal setting, what can we just define what the actual goal is in relation to it, and then we can put a strategy together for it? So,
Goal
I
is
suppose the goal is probably try and keep it clean, and clean it as we're going along, so it doesn't build up towards the end. kind of make it an effort among the actual attendees of the event. Would be a goal, to try get them to clean up as well.
So the important things is having a lot of litter collection points around everywhere. That people aren't looking for them; they're in their face nearly, and with that being marshalled by the people who are going to be wearing the high vis vest then.
Yeah, and encourage people to, the whole philosophy of leave no trace and all that, to bring their rubbish with them.
Okay, so the goal effectively, in the first instance, I suppose, is preventative, to prevent littering in the first instance, if possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then perhaps one of the other goals would be to provide public announcements, to encourage people and to make them aware of where there are litter collection points.
Good. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then following that, as a post cleanup, I suppose, just that as people are leaving, to make them aware that there are collection points on the exits from the Mansion House on the day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to get it done in a timely and efficient manner and safe manner.
Okay. Okay. Time there, Amanda, please.
11:25.
11:25. Okay. So in summary, then, the strategic plan, if we were to prioritise this, in terms of priorities, in terms of budget, in terms of metrics as to how we measure success of it, who the principal actors are, and then how we can review it. So if we could take it in terms of priorities.
Well, obviously we need to get the team together. I mean, the 40 to 50 people that we were talking about.
Okay.
And the amount of collection points obviously is going to be quite a lot as well. That's a big priority to have that in place.
Bins and people, yeah.
We need supplies for the cleanup too.
Sorry, Paul?
We'll need supplies for the cleanup.
Okay. So would the first priority be to contact the particular organisations in the first instance to see what assistance they can give us, and to liaise with Dublin County Council, and obviously to contact the political parties, maybe the gay rights movement and whatever else, and ask them for assistance on the day in terms of in the first instance, so that they assist with us and they contact their groups in advance of the day.
Yeah.
Would that maybe be the first priority?
No, after the discussions, we'll know kind of how many volunteers and people they could offer.
Okay, they'll also probably give us some sort of idea of numbers that they expect on the day.
Yeah.
In terms of budget, has anybody got any idea as to what the cost? Well, I suppose in terms of the cost, the budget might be determined by the number of people that we have to have, and therefore obviously the number of collection points also.
Oh. And what do we do with the rubbish when we collect it? We have to transport it presumably to recycling dumps, or
that's going to be another budget issue as well. The transport and disposal of the actual garbage.
Well, I suspect Dublin County Council will collect the rubbish if we gather it together in one collection area. I mean, they will actually look at the disposal.
I should look into that when I'm contacting them, so I'll ask about that as well.
Okay.
I'll sort something.
Okay, so can we just review who the actors are, who's actually taking what role on? Amanda, what had you said you contacted?
14 minutes. I'm going to contact Tourist Ireland, and I just thought I may tie in with the Dublin Chamber of Commerce as well.
Okay, Paul?
I'm going to look after the numbers.
You're going to manage the people who are actually looking after the cleanup, is that it?
Exactly, yeah.
The volunteers.
Putting the team together,
okay. And Stephen, what had you mentioned you would look after?
Liaison with Dublin City Council.
Okay, and you'll check out.
See what help we can get as regards, materials, vests, all that kind of stuff, recycling bins, and what kind of facilities they can offer us.
Grand, and will you assure that they'll collect the rubbish then later on as well?
Okay, yep.
Adam, what was your?
I'm just going to chat to the council and see what channels that they go through to get this stuff and see what they could help us with.
Is that
And
overlapping with
I was gonna.
Stevens?
Well, Stephen can take care of that as well if he
I
wants.
thought
to.
Adam, you were liaison with the different groups who were kind of involved in the vote.
With the gay rights and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, sure, I'll do that then.
Great. Okay. What time have we got there, Amanda?
15:19.
Okay. Well, thanks very much. We're going to wrap this up then, guys.
Okay.
I think it's been fairly productive. Thank you very much for your involvement.